Right, let's go over the notes that Dante wrote before Chapter 6 started. I have to admit, this wasn't as impressive as the last lots. Between Chapter 5.5 and Chapter 6, Dante wrote more notes, as they had learned more during their voyage across the Great Lake in District 21, where Ishmael had to break the chains that tied her to her past, chains that were put on her without her realizing it by Captain Ahab. Then there was the conflict within the backstreets of District 20 between the Kurokumo clan and the Blade lineage, with a distorting monolith caught in the middle of it. The Blade lineage being freed from the library. On the way to the latter encounter, they encountered the After Team, who saw them as little more than sentient pieces of not worth even her presence. They also received radio communication from Ezra of the Distortion Team, and it was revealed that Moses was there as well. After they were contacted about the reclassification of abnormalities, distortions, and Pekatula, next to have the group therapy session would be Heathcliff, Mr. Anger Management. But that will have to wait until they actually get there. Here are the updates so far. Let's start with the Limbus Company section. In this, Dante understood that they were mainly tasked with finding the golden bars. But apparently Limbus Company is trying to grow its reputation as a company that provides distortion, suppression, capture, and prevention services. Yeah. No wonder those two are working for them. Let's talk about Mephistopheles, specifically Refraction Line 3. Which was a railroad with an orange light saying Line 3. Each refraction railway line has a different colour. This one followed a circular track. It stopped at every station it passed by, with rest stations along the way. Which wasn't as bad as the last one. They found abnormalities not encountered before. As Faust said about them, the trains were stopping by the world of abnormalities, asking if they could go even farther than that. Dante compared going through the mirror dungeons like they're wading through an abstract ocean of a world, while the refraction railways were more a corridor. So many unknowns there, asking who built those stations, who put the rewards in the lost and found. Where does the subway train that resembles Mephistopheles come from? How did it get on the subway tracks? Well, the same could be said to the door leading to other locations. Yes, some in their universe, others in a universe that's behind theirs. Like with Walpurgis Nights. Specifically, where they walked through a door that led them to Lobotomy Corporation HQ during the construction of the Seed of Light, where they fought the Green Dawn ordeals. It's likely part of Mephistopheles' design. Faust is likely to know more about that, but she's not going to be saying anything about that anytime soon. Let's talk about the LCA. This is apparently the most influential department in Limbus Company, although Dante doesn't know what it stands for, theorizing that they seem to work with the LCD for important distortion or monolith retrieval missions. They only saw the Special Retrieval Operations Unit part of it, noting that they're all tall, bulky, and dressed in black. they're likely some form of cyborgs of implants. One of them possibly protecting them from the effects of the monolith. Perhaps they have implants that dampen their emotions when that's needed. The one that appeared certainly seemed like they had at least partial prosthetics. Well, they're certainly not an AI, as, in case you need a reminder, AI are legal in the city. Yes, as that would attract the attention of the head. And one thing you should not do in the city is get on their bad side. As for the LCB, that's Limbus Company Bus. Basically, Mephistopheles, and inside that, there's Virgilius the Red Gaze, Charon, Dante, and the Damned Dozen. Yes, they're called that because they're on the bus. Yes, a simple title, but it sums up that department nicely. Yes, and their purpose is to retrieve the golden bars from the branch facilities of what used to be the Lobotomy Corporation. As for what the golden bars are, they appear to be physical objects shaped like tree branches, although they also deal with tasks on the way to them that need their capabilities. Capabilities unique to Dante and the others. Dante understood how that company came to be, and why it had to be Dante and the Damned Dozen that had to do this. Well, as for the specifics, Faust isn't telling them anytime soon. Apparently, the security level is too low to access that information. Yes, she knows more than she's saying, and Dante was asking how she knows more than them, the executive manager. Basically, her bus, her rules. As for the LCC, or the LCCA, the after team, they don't think highly of Dante and the Damned Dozen. They likely think that common no-name syndicates are better. Well, except perhaps Virgilius. They know better than to him off. Dante suspects that it's because they believe that they're being given special treatments, that they have it easy. Easy? Dante asks if they should try dying over and over again, if they think that they're such a bunch of spoiled babies, or indeed to feel the pain of death again, and again, with no end. Yes, if they saw them in action and what they have to go through to get to that point, I highly doubt that they'd be as resentful, as at least if and when they die, it gets it over with. Then Dante noted that Sod was alive, happy to make that correction. She healed up nicely after what happened and got promoted to manager. This was weighing on Sinclair's mind, hoping that it would put his mind at ease, even slightly. The before team, like Sod and Effie, at least worked alongside them, but Kaiman, the woman from the LCCA, treated them and their department like they were beneath them. Dante felt awful after that. Well, wouldn't you, if it was made clear that you're about as popular as someone serving up a Texas-style barbecue at a Hindu temple? Yes, and in case it isn't clear, a Hindu temple considers a cow to be sacred, and can you imagine how they would feel if they saw someone serving up a Texas-style barbecue in their temple? not a good sight, to put it mildly. And that's before the angry mob. As for the LCD, Limbus Company Distortion, this was a department that specialized in dealing with distortions to expand Limbus Company's business within the city. Ezra actively helped them during the monolith retrieval operation. Dante seeing her as what Don Quixote would be like if her personality was a little more mature. Sorry, I think that's one way of putting it, but another, well, it's what she'd be like if she was a little more sane. As it's clear that she's not completely sane, let's be honest here. And then there's Moses, her direct superior. She was in the background, at least during that operation, and she was the one that sent the reclassification announcement. Right, let's talk about the nests, specifically about S-Corp. This one was located in District 19, one with a king and retainers. Basically how this nest was governed, similar to how nests are usually governed by wings. Yes, wings being megacorporations. But this is different. While Don Quixote was fascinated by this, Dante didn't see this as a standard governance system. It was clear that each nest had a different culture and way of doing things. They're unsure of what kind of singularity that wing has. Dante knows that, well, certainly since the monolith operation, that Yi Sang was from District 19. Actually, this was known during the fight against Dong Rang, acting out the past between them inside that building owned by K-Corp. Yes. He told Dante that S-Corp deals with much of the agriculture and livestock. Well, the food has to come from somewhere. It's also where the Bladen lineage came from, as well. They left that nest for a similar reason to Yi Sang. Internal issues and the tyranny of the corrupt. It seemed chaotic there, and Dante hoped that it wasn't their next destination after District 20. Oh dear. Yeah. There's nowhere else in the city that's along their routes that they haven't already been to, except District 19. Yes, I suspect that the head couldn't really care less about how each district is run, where as long as the profits keep flowing into their coffers, and they don't do anything like, make an AI or something that's considered a threat to their rule. The wings, within reason of course, can do whatever they want. Now to talk about the city's technologies, specifically about combat capability. Dante understood that there's more than one way to get stronger in the city, such as prosthetics and augmentation procedures. But a physically strong body by itself isn't enough. Combat experience and techniques matter as well. Fixer offices, associations, and syndicates each have their unique way of fighting, such as styles of swordplay. The Sunk and Seven Association are examples of this with fixers, and the Blade lineage and the Kurokuma clan are examples of this with syndicates. There are also martial arts styles. The Lu Association uses this most notably. There are also dojos and things like that. Yes, dojos are places where people go to train in the martial arts. Or basically anything that can be used potentially to injure another. Heathcliff told them that an untrained, inexperienced body enhanced by surgeries just turns you into a slightly sturdier punching bag. Ryushu added that the type of procedure, choice of weapon, and style of martial arts matters as well. Dante overheard some identities with a lot of combat experience chatting, saying that investing money in your body will only take you so far. A sturdier and stronger body helps, but experience and training helps to actually use that body. Roger cleared it up by saying that more money doesn't automatically mean more power, although you do need to fork out the on to get stronger. Well, just physical training by itself is unlikely to be enough, at least not if you want to get anywhere as a fixer or syndicate thug. Then we have a monolith. Dante saw it as a black stele that forces people to distort. It's similar to the golden bars, causing or amplifying distortions, but unlike the golden bars, causing distortions is all it's good for. Dante knows the difference between a monolith and a golden bar, even though they're similar. The golden bar amplifies and releases every feeling, from the hottest emotions to the warmest emotions, but the monolith makes people face what's boiling in the deepest abyss of oneself. It has a mechanism to it, unlike the golden bar. A device that was so complicated that whatever interaction they had with it felt like they were navigating through a maze puzzle. Right, let's talk about the outskirts. Dante noted that it was thanks to Heathcliff and Don Quixote that they recently, if involuntarily, came to learn that there were villages in the outskirts, populated by humans. Remembering that there were monsters in the outskirts separate from abnormalities or distortions, yet they still wanted to kill humans. Gnomes and giants were two of them. Intelligent non-humans, different from abnormalities. They only stopped by a factory in the outskirts, so they don't know what the rest of the outskirts are like, other than that the Great Lake was a part of it. So they shouldn't know what to expect there. Not entirely. Sinclair did say that, much like Demian, that it might be a nicer place than they thought. But Ishmael disputed that it doesn't matter if it was beautiful or rich. It might seem nice, but it's not. Yeah, certainly not if it's filled to the brim with things that have nothing but hatred towards humans. Yes. After Ahab was defeated, and the pallid whale was dead, they had an unscheduled visit to the outskirts, then they dealt with the monolith incident, and now they're heading towards Wuthering Heights. Right, let's move on to abnormalities, specifically the risk levels. Dante noted that each abnormality was categorized into different risk levels. According to Faust, there are 5 risk levels: Zain, Tef, He, Wa, and Aleph. They also found out that the observation logs, yes, the observation logs written by the damned dozen were sent to the higher-ups of Limbus Company, which was used to determine risk levels of what was fought, although some risk levels were rated even before they submitted the observation logs. This fact was drawn to Dante's attention when Heathcliff noticed this, making Dante ask if HQ was checking them frequently. Based on this, I wouldn't be surprised if those in the bus were unable to take a without them knowing about it. The risk levels were clearly rated based on abnormality damage potential and combat difficulty, which is why they're told to focus on the details of each encounter and identify the abnormality characteristics when writing the logs. Even with this, some lower tier abnormalities were harder to fight than some higher tier abnormalities, suggesting some discrepancy. As stated in the mini-episode set before Chapter 6, Dante suspects that it might be the golden bar suppressing the abnormality strength, or possibly this is what the Quip-Off deterrence was. Either that or, as previously suspected, there were some errors in the risk levels, specifically based on the difficulty fighting them. The standards were based on the Botany Corporation's definition of risk levels, which the LCA used to rate them. The LCA recognized the disparity, which was why they were developing some new standards for categorization, aiming to reorganize and recategorize the risk levels to match up with the experiences of the damned dozen. Well, there is a difference between the Botany Corporation's risk levels due to them containing them and doing all they can to get enkephalin out of them, as opposed to what Limbus Company is doing, and that's containing them and fighting against them. As for distortions, Dante described it as a phenomenon where a person turns into a monstrous form after a certain trigger. They've encountered a few of those in their journey. Let's see, there's Krema, Papabungi, Dongrang, and Bamboo-Hatted Kim. And those are the more unique ones, those that were able to maintain their intelligence. They found a fault line that connects them together. People distort when they're pushed to the brink of emotional breakdown, which is not uncommon, as from what they've seen in the city, emotional breakdown is business as usual to people living in an ultra-capitalistic living hell. Based on this, they asked, why aren't there more distortions? They theorized that there's a second trigger. Yes, a secondary trigger. Well, one other than being pushed beyond their emotional breaking point. So far, the higher-ups categorized them with the same risk levels as the abnormalities, but they've decided to classify them using a different system because there is a difference between them certainly a difference between them and abnormalities, because abnormalities revert into an egg-like form when defeated. Distortions, on the other hand, they can be killed. Well, abnormalities certainly can't truly be killed. At least there's no method of doing so that any of them are aware of. Let's talk about the Pecatula. Dante observed that while they give off a similar energy to distortions, they have no identifying characteristics between them, at least between the same types. 6 Pecatulam have been confirmed so far. Yisang saw them as close to beasts than the distortions. The Pecatula were much more aggressive and were more willing to attack than distortions. Dante suspects that it might be due to the golden bar in their head that they're able to tell abnormalities from distortions, along with distortions from Pecatula. Similar, but different. Sinclair suspects that while this is the case, they might come from the same source. But what failed? Well, Sinclair noted that what failed to become a distortion would become a Pecatula. This made sense to Dante, which they'll go with unless they learn otherwise. The risk levels and serial numbers were getting reworked for them as well, likely due to encountering the Stage 2 versions of familiar Pecatula during the Monolith operation. Faust saw that based on this, they'd need to categorize abnormalities, distortions, and Pecatula separately, yes. An overhaul of the system would be necessary, and this was understood by Dante. As for the Stage 2 Pecatula, they encountered these, which appear to be more mature versions of the Pecatula that they encountered so far. The higher-ups were trying to categorize them by stages. Dante didn't see this as a coincidence that they've only now run into them. The Damned dozen have grown stronger through their journey. So have the Pecatula. Dante theorizing that they showed up because of the Golden Bower. Specifically that they're collecting them, which also powers up their identities, which proportionately grows the Pecatula. Dante remembering that there's a Golden Bower in their head, concerned by how this was connected. Right, now I can finally move on to Chapter 6. Until next time. Hail the Rabbit!